Welcome to the fastest daf in town. Today, Masechtas Avodah Zarah, Daf Yud Zayin. We are going to begin on the bottom of Tes Zayin Amud Beis, second wide line, Tanraban. So the Gemara tells us the following story: Kishe Nitvas Rabbi Eliezer Laminus, that when Rabbi Eliezer was arrested, Haluhu Lagardum. So we are mentioning this because we saw in yesterday's daf there's certain things that you're not allowed to build, and that includes a gardum, which was a structure in which they would judge people. And they brought him there to judge him. So oiso hamoin zakin shikemoischa yasik b'dvarim b'telim halalu. Just that someone is great as you, why are you oisik in these devar b'telim, which they're actually referring to Torah, which obviously is a high level of incorrect of a statement, but you can understand who you're dealing with by saying that. So Amallah Nemanalai Hadayin, so I trust the judge. So Ksavar Oitzo Hamoin Olav Hu Oimer. So you thought that what was being said as Rabbi Eliezer was saying, I trust you, O judge, to be able to make a good decision. The truth is, Rabbi Eliezer's statement was keneged Hashem. Hashem is the correct judge. So Amalu Hoyel v'hemanti alecha, since I've trusted to you, dimos paterato. So therefore, you're going to be pater. Therefore, everything is good. However, kshabola beso nechtaso tamid betzloi l'nachmoi. So his students came to comfort him. V'lo of tanchumin. But he didn't accept any levels of comfort. Says Rashi, Dimus hi haisasham yiras v'nishmaba. So anyway, he was spared, but his question is, what did he do? He must have done something wrong to have deserved this fate. So Rabbi Kiva Rebbe, Tarshini loimer davar echad mama. Permit me to basically say one thing to you. So Rabbi Eliezer allowed us. So Amalo Emor. So go ahead, tell me what did I do wrong? So Amalo Rebbe Shema Minas Bol Yadcha. Maybe you enjoyed certain words of a heretic, and of course that is a wrong thing for you to do. So maybe you accepted these words of some sort, as we continue in Zion but Aleph, the Hancha. Again, since you derive benefit and it was good in your eyes, but love nitvasta. And maybe for that reason is why you were put in captivity. Samelo Akiva, his Gartani, you remind me, actually, Pamachas Ha'isa Mahalach B'Shok Elian. I was actually in this marketplace, Shelt Sipari, but Sasi Echad, and I found this one guy, V'Yakivish Kvar Sechan Yishma was his name. So Amali Kosov B'Saraschem, it's written in your Torah, Lo Savi Esnan Zaina. So this is in Sefer Devarim, that a person is now to bring as a carbon the profits in which were given to a Zaina. It's a Toeva, the Geimer. So Mahu Lasa Yisimanu Beis Hakise L'Koin Gadol. So he said, what should you do regarding a bathroom to the Kohen Gadol? So what exactly is he saying? He's saying that just like, what does he do? Well, it says Rashi, Shapiresh Mibeso, once he leaves his house, Lifnei Yoim Hakiporim Melishkas Parhedrin, and he has to go for 7 days, as the beginning of Masechtas Yoma says, and he resides in the Beis HaMikdash in this chamber called the Lishkas Parhedrin. That's where all of his needs are taken care of. So and I didn't say anything. So I learned Kim Esnan Zaina Kavtsa Viad Esnan Zaina Yeshuvu, that from an Esnan Zaina it was taken, and so too is returned. Mamakam Hatanifis, to this dirty place. Bolo Makam Hatanifis Yelechu. And then he can go to this location. And Hani Hadavar, I enjoyed his answer. Therefore, I got in trouble and got arrested. Basically, I was listening to this guy's interpretation, in which, again, trying to figure out this whole thing about a basic case of the Kohen Gadol, says, Taisus nira dalav midaraisa kaboy debshita deshari dehafilu rikuyim debase kacha kadashim ahavi shari ilav ribuya dekra avol midi harabayas pshita deshari dehafilu para imaite perikol hatzida. Okay, so again, the question is, like, how did he basically go to the bathroom if he had to be in the base of Mikdash? It's basically an interesting question. So he said he can learn out from Esnan Zaina, because again, you're not allowed to take it Esnan Zaina, which is a makam, something from makam Tanaifis. So that's that. However, away from the base of Mikdash, it's allowed. So again, that's what he got hana from. And that was wrong for him to have accepted these words. V'avarti al mashakas b'Torah, the pasuk says, "Harchik me'aleha darchecha." So the pasuk says in Mishlei that you should distance your ways. V'al tikrav el pesach beisa, and you shouldn't come close to their homes. Zu minus. This is referring to accepting the words of minus. V'al tikrav el pesach beisa zu harshus. This is actually referring to like governmental politics, that you shouldn't, says Rashi, shultanois, being heavily involved in leadership positions in the government. So they have a lot of potential issues around that. Distance yourself from heretics. And vershos in politics. Don't come close to the house of a Zaina. Fine. So how far away? So arba amos. You should distance yourself 4 amos from a Zaina. Rabbanan hai me'esnan Zaina my darshvei. So what does he use this pasuk? Could Rav Chisda? In Rav Chisda kol Zaina sheniskeres l'b'sayif he seicheres. Any Zaina who is for hire at the end, she'll hire others. Shenemar usidcha esnan ve'esnan l'nasan l'cha v'ti l'hafech, and it'll end up being the other way around. Says Rashi, l'b'sayif he nivzis be'enei koil v'sechartan, because she's going to be disgraced in front of everyone because of what she does. And therefore, v'hachi mashma me'esnan zayna kapsa me'esnan hazayna me'esnan zayna yoshev l'hinase. So that she's going to end up like paying him. Actually, you don't have to distance yourself dal damas. All you need to do is just not have tashmish with a zayna. Shenemer ish el kol sharbeis b'saroi l'sikruvu galos ereva. So when it says l'sikruvu, it's not talking about you have to be dalad amos away from all these different relatives. It just means you can't have tashmish with them. So therefore, it's the same thing when it comes to a zona. You don't have to be distancing yourself dalad amos away. It's sufficient enough that you're just not there. Ulu ki havi yasa mebeirav havi menashikuhu l'achse Abei Yadaihu. So when Ula went to the house of Rav, he kissed the sister on the sleeve. The Armala Abei Chadaihu. Some say on the chest. Says Rashi Bizori Sehen. Upliga didea dida, and there's actually a stira in his own words whether this is acceptable. The Ula Kriva Ba'alma Aser. That even coming close is awesome. That when it comes to a nazir, not only is he not allowed to drink wine, but he's also not allowed to come close to a vineyard because he may come to it. And therefore, this seems to be a stira that he shouldn't even come close to her. So Taisa says, so if in fact he says that you're not supposed to, so why was he makel? As the Gemara in Psuba says, she was like a beam. Unless he had no yetzer hara, like a typical man. And therefore to him it was allowed. But to anyone else it was not. Because he knew himself. Now regarding a luka, which we mentioned before, which is a type of a leech, in literally that's its context. but it also represents Gehenna. Shtei banais, two daughters, hav. So my hav. So Amar Ukva koil shtei banais. There's the sound of two women, shetsuakais megehenim, that are screaming in Gehenna. V'yoimers be'olam hazeh hav. In this world, they said give. Umaninhu minus varashus. Someone who's involved in minus, they scream, as Rashi says, soekes haba mikroives avodas chachavim, because they got people to worship idols. And the rishus, which is the government, their politics, soekes haba b'mamoin, because they took taxes incorrectly and they stole people's money. Fine. So therefore, to them also we said, because they said give, hava manin hu midas rishos. Ikudi amri omer Rav Chisda omer mar ukva koil gehenim soekes. It's actually not. It's actually the voice of Gehenim itself. The Oimeres and says haviuli shtei banais. Give me these two daughters, that scream out, okay, give. Which, again, the purpose of this world is to help others, to not just to, that you should give to me these things, but you should be helping others. Kol bia lo yeshuven lo yasigo orchim chayim. So this pasuk, which is in Mishlei, it says Kol Boeha. Anyone who goes, Lo Yeshuvah, will not return. B'chol Yesigu Arches Chayim, and they're not going to go into the way of life. They're going to lose Chayim. So what is that referring to? So V'chim Acher, understand V'chim Acher Shlo Yeshavu. If it's already saying that you cannot go there, so Heichin Yesigu. So it seems like repetitive. How come Rabbi Im Yeshuvu? Even if you do tshuva, lo yasigu orchas chayim, you're not going to live. In other words, even if it's true you did something, you were so wrong, but since you did tshuva, which is a good thing, of course, but now that's it. You're going to not be able to continue to live. Remember the whole kaparish meminus meis. How is that a good thing? If you're parish from minus, then you're going to die. Well, how is that helpful, right? If doing tshuva doesn't seem much of an incentive if you're going to die. After all, this is a woman that came in front of Rav Chisda, and she said to him, that there was the smallest sin that was done with my bana katana, with my small son. Says Rashi, what exactly did she do? Avera kalwa shibiyada zuhi shiasa b'na katan mibna golda b'na hagadol ba'aleha b'halidu mimenu b'na hakata. So she had bia and she had bia with her son b'na hagadol v'yamarla Rav Chisda tarchula b'zavdasa, that I will provide. Says Rashi, tachrichin. I'm going to provide shrouds for you. Okay, which sounds like she should die. However, v'lo mesa, Shitaka did not die. Amra kalwa shibikaylai sasasa. Sounds like machlal the minas nami habiba. She probably did a lot of things wrong, so she was probably also a heretic. And yet she didn't die. So Gemara says hahu deloi hadru ba shaper mishum hachal mesa. Because she didn't do tshuva properly, that's why she didn't die, which seems hard to imagine. But again, we have to understand that would have been a kapara had they did tshuva. Ikadi amr meminus in me'avera loy. So for minus, you're right. However, when it comes to an avera, you would not die. You would only die if there was minus. He diaslo committed Rav Chisda, v'yirmalei Rav Chisda. Zavidula Zavdasa. So he said, like, prepare again these shrouds. And she did die. So according to this, it's because she was a heretic. So you're saying that someone who has done a serious sin other than being a heretic, and they did tshuva, that they won't die. ben Durdoi shel haniach zayda achas ba'olam. So it said about this guy that this Rabbi Eliezer ben Durdoi, which is interesting, he's apparently a rabbi, right? That there was never a zayna. He had tashmish with every zayin in the world. He heard about a particular zayna far away. So he took a bunch of money in order to be able to pay her for her services. He was traveled 7 seas to get to her. Bishas Hergel Dover, and during the Tashmish Heficha, so there was wind that was produced. They had gas. So Amra, so she said, Kishem Shaficha Zu Einu Chayzeres Lim Kaima, just like that gas can never go back, right? It's a one-way street. Kach Elazar ben Durdoi in Makabel Naisa B'tshuva. So too, you're never going to do tshuva. So it's a pretty interesting analogy. So halach v'yoshe ben shnei harim. So he sat between 2 mountains, v'gvois and this and these valleys. Amr harim v'gvois bikshu lai rachmim. Amr lo ad she'anu mavakshim alecha. So you're asking mercy. Nevakish al atzmeinu. How about for yourself? Shenemar ki ahari mamushu. That the mountains are wilting away, v'hagvois to moitina, and these valleys will falter. Amr shemai ba'aretz. So bikshu olai rachmim. So he said to the heavens and earth, I need rachmim. So Amr said, he said, Adshan mavakshin olecha. You're asking for yourself. Nevakash alatzmeinu. Ask for ourselves. Shnemer ki shemayim ka'oshan nimlachu. That the heavens are like this smoke that disappears. So Aretz and the earth is kebeged tivla. So Aimer chama v'lavana. So he said to the sun and the moon, Bikshu rachmim lo adshan rachmim alecha. You want mercy on yourself. When Avakash alasmeinu shnemar, this pasuk says v'charfa halavana. The moon was embarrassed. Ubusha chama, and so is the sun. So Aimer kachavim. So he went to the stars and the constellations. You're asking for yourself. The pasuk says, that there was it was dissipated all the hosts in the sky. Amr, and this is an unbelievable thing. So he blamed the world. And then once he realized he can't blame the world, Ein hadavar toli elabi. It's on me. So once you accept responsibility, haniach roisha bein berchav, we go b'chia. So you start crying. Until he died. Yatsabaskal v'yam Rabbi Eliezer ben Durdoi mezuman l'chayil mahaba. He will get world to come. Now b'hahacha be'aver habu makes. We say that he died by doing tshuva. He's not a min. So hasam nami kivan de avik bat toiva keminos damya. So he says, actually, this person taka also falls under the category of being a min. Okay, so therefore, we basically say he also has the same same thing because of all the good that he pushed away. Therefore, he's like a min. Bocha Rabbi started crying upon hearing the story. There's some people, it takes a whole world of constant focus and building and effort. And some people, one moment, they have that one opportunity to change and they take it, so that inspires them. So it could be one big change or small, subtle things that we do every day. Fine. The Omer Rabbi will dayan will bali tshuva shemekabel noisai el shikar noisan Rabbi. It's not enough that he was considered that he did tshuva and his tshuva was accepted. He was zoichda tolam haba, but he was even called Rabbi because of course there's what to learn from him. Question 10. Kol biel yeshuvin v'yasigu orchos chayim. Al mi nemer kol biel yeshuvin. So the pasuk, question 10, Hamikra nemar al hamishtamdin lavodas kachavim la'achar shenavku b'minus enun shavim. That someone, they're min and they're Isaac and Avodah Zarah, so they won't do tshuva. Well, Yisigu is even if you do tshuva, it's Gzeras HaMelech Leim Shemusu. There's a Gezerah that once you're accepted upon yourself minus, then that person is going to die. Which question TA29 ksiv Kol bi yeshuvan v'lo yisigu orachos chayim alman never pasuk zeh v'ma hakavana v'lo yisigu orachos chayim. So this is the same question. So it's al minus v'lo yisigu orachos chayim hainu im yeshuvu yimaheru lamus. That they're going to basically die shortly thereafter. Okay. All right, let's keep going. So the Gemara says like this: Rabbi Chanina, Rabbi Yonasan, Havi Ka'azl B'Orcha. So these two people are on the road, and Motul Lahanu Trei Shvil. There's these two roads. They were on a crossroads and go either way. The problem is Chad Patzi Apiskad V'Skachab, the Chad Patzi Apiskad V'Znus. So one of the roads would go through idol worshippers, and potentially they could worship idols. Another road goes through a place where there's a lot of znus. So I think it's better as we continue to Yud Zayin Mabeis to go through the pathway of idols, as after all the Chanis Yitzrei. Because the Yetzer Hara has basically been gone. Says Rashi, Nishchat Yitzra. The Yetzer Hara has been shechted. Because the men of the Great Assembly asked for mercy, says Rashi, and it was accepted. And they basically killed the Yetzer Hara from any desire to worship Avodah Zarah, as is brought down in the Masechtas Sanhedrin. So maybe it makes more sense because we're not going to be as tempted. Amalei Yidach, he said, Pumpfakert, Nizla Pischad Beznus. Maybe we should go that way. After all, because we're together and we're tzaddikim, v'nichli liyitzran, we'll subdue our Yetzer Hara, and we'll get reward. So kimat, and that's where they went. Kimat ha'hasam, when they got there, kazin huznus, we found that all the zainas, that is kansu mikamayhu, they basically went and hid indoors, so that there was no possible way for them to even be tempted anyway, so maybe they didn't get any schar for going through there. So he said, how do we know, says Rashi, that you could rely on yourself in this situation? Because it says mizima, and the pasuk in Mishlei says mizima, from lewdness tishmar lach, you should protect yourself. Tavuna tin serecha. Okay, that's the pasuk. So mizima tishmar layach. That again, from zima you should protect yourself, and tavuna, instead tavuna tin sarka. You should have knowledge and understanding of who you are. So Amrli Rabbanan Rabba Mayim Zima. How do we know it's referring to distancing yourself from Zima, or maybe not? Ilema Tayra. So how did you protect yourself? Tayra Dechsiba Zima. The pasuk says Zima, so maybe it's referring to Tayra. V'targaminan Eitzas Chatayin. It's the counsel. V'ksiv Hefliya Eitza Hagadol Taishia. To be able to receive counsel for salvation. Yahachi Zima Baboyle. So it should say Zima. So Hachikamer Midvar Zima Tishmalayach Tayra Tisrachena. So in order to be able to distance yourself from Zima, from Znus, you should, the pasuk basically is saying that you will be able to do so and be protected from anything bad or any hir or chait by going and learning Torah. So by being oisik with Torah, it prevents you from znus. Midvar zima tishmalach tishma tisrochena. Tanobanan. So another story, it says kishe nitvasu Rabbi Eliezer ben Parta. Rabbi Eliezer ben Parta was arrested. There was also Rabbi Chanina ben Tradion, both of them. Now, Rabbi Lezer ben Prat, we're going to see, had 5 charges against him, which is pretty difficult to get out of that. However, Rabbi Chanina ben Tradion, we're going to see in a second, only had 1 charge against him. So maybe he'll be more likely to get out. So Emily Rabbi Lezer ben Partel or Rabbi Chanina ben Tradion, Ashrecha, you're fortunate. Shinitafta al davar echad. You're only arrested for 1 crime. Oy li, woe to me, shinafasti al chamish davar. I have 5 things against me. So it's much more likely that I'm going to get in trouble than you, because all they need to do is get out of 1 thing. But I have 5 things stacked against me. So Rabbi Chanina, he said, no, the other way around. Ashrecha, praiseworthy is you. Shinafasti al chamish davarim biata nitzal. Even though you have 5 supposed charges against you, you'll still be saved. Oy li, but woe to me, shinafatzni al davar echad in a nitzal. I will not be saved, even though I have 1. So why are you better off? After all, you have 5 charges. Because you not only did you learn Torah, you also did chesed. All I did was Torah and not chesed. And since I didn't act above the law, so I'm not going to be protected in this situation either. I didn't help people, so Hashem's not going to help me. If you only learn Torah but you don't do chesed, it's like you don't have a God. It's like it's not Torah, so you're not learning. It's nothing. So this pasuk in Divrei Hayamim, it says Yamim Rabbi Yisrael, will be many days for the Yisrael. Not to the true God. Without a kayin, without Torah. So my it's like you don't have a God. Now the question is, with regard to Rabbi Chanina ben Tradion, who seems to be speaking pretty negatively about himself, is it possible to say Rabbi Chanina ben Tradion didn't do chesed? Is that true? You shouldn't give your money to the Arniki Shil Tzedakah, putting into this purse for charity. Unless it's appointed like a great Talmid Chacham like Rav Chanina ben Tradion. So you see, Rav Chanina ben Tradion, that was actually one of the things he did. He was Isaac and Gmos Chasadim continuously, and he was like appointed to take care of all these affairs. So him nua who dahavim him. One answer is yes, he's very trustworthy. However, Mebid lo, but he didn't do enough for himself. He didn't give as much. What do you mean? Armelo Moishel Purim Nischalfu li b'Moishel Sadaka v'chel kasem l'niyim. So it says that Armulo Moishel Purim, that this money is designated for Purim, says Rashi. Shigavisi Mimnei Ir, collected for the people from the city to give out for the students Purim. So, and we learned in Bamba Metzia, Ein ha'ani rishai likach mehen ritzul sandaloi, that if it was given for a particular purpose, you can't even use it for even for a shoelace. So, if let's say that what happened, we say nischalfu li b'mois shel tzedakah. Sever ha'yisish shehin shel tzedakah. And he thought it was for charity. V'chelchatam l'niyim shel sudas purim v'ani parati mishli es shel purim. So basically, what happened was that he gave of his own, right? So that's what Rashi says. What do you mean he didn't do anything? It's clear that he gave, right? That he ended up taking money, which was designated for tzedakah for Sudas Purim, and even though maybe it was given for some other purpose, so he reimbursed the tzedakah fund with his own monies. So how could we say that Rabbi Chanina ben Tradion was not a goyim chesed? So again, mivid ovid. However, midaboy le lo ovid. It's true, he did, but maybe he didn't do as much as he could. That's how he looked at it. Okay. I seen Rabbi Lezer ben Pratia. So they finally got to Rabbi Lezer ben Pratia, who again was a great Gomel Chesed. So they started asking him questions. I'm like, my time at Tinisa. What are you doing teaching Torah? My time at Ganafta. And how come you stole? Right? So again, he had like all these different charges. So Amr Lahu said, 1 second. Isaifa lo safra. Misafra lo saifa. Umidahal lesa hanami lesa. How could it be that I'm Isaac and Torah, someone's Isaac and Torah, the Torah says not to steal. So someone who's Isaac and Torah is not a thief. Someone who's a thief is not Isaac and Torah. So the fact is, it can't be that they're both true. So this guy who's testifying that I did both, obviously he's an 8 sheker and they should both be thrown out. My time we call you Rabbi. So why are you called a teacher? Right? Hopefully it's not to learn to teach Torah. Obviously they weren't thrilled about that. So he said, no, Rabban shel tarsiyim ani, because I teach people how to weave. So Aisahu trey kiburi. So they brought him like 2 looms to see. Oh yeah, let's see how good of a professional weaver you are. So Malay. Haide Shasi Haide Arba. So which one is the warp and which one is the wolf, right? So it's like, let's see how, if you know what you're talking about. So Zarah Shlanisa, a miracle happened, and Asi Ziburisa, and a bee came, and Asiva ad al the Shasi, Aviasi Zibor, Aviaso al the Arba. So one bee landed on the warp and one landed on the wolf. Armalahu, Haide Shasia, Vahide the Arba. So he said, this is the warp, the warp, this wolf. So basically, like all these complex parts of a loom. He said, so tell me, point to which one is the wolf, which one is the warp. So as soon as the bee landed on it and they didn't chap, so he understood it was like a nace. So he said, oh, that's what it was. Says Rashi, Ziburasa, it was a nekeva oisiva al the shasiya. So the nekeva bee landed on the shasiya. The haven shehu nes hanas. It was a miracle. Shashesi mekabel arev, and the shes is mekabel the arev. Kenekeva hamakabel zachar, just like a nekeva accepts a zachar. So therefore, he understood which one was the mekabel and which one was the nekeva, which was the zachar, by the bees that landed on the different parts behind the arba. So amalei my time will also slabei avidin. Another crime, you're supposed to go to the feast for Avodah Zarah and you didn't show up. Who's Zakin Hayisi? Listen, I, Rabbi Lezer ben Parta, I'm not a young man, I'm old. I would have gone, but I was afraid Shema Tarmasuni Bereglechem, that people may end up trampling all over. And because I'm old, I may get pushed down, I may get killed. So Amru said, in the Kamasabi is Ramos. So what do you mean? This has never happened before. That sounds like not a very good excuse. So it's Rakash Nisa that Hu Yoima Irmos Chad Saba. One elder was trampled on that day, right? So therefore, so that shows that actually it was a valid reason for him not to show up. My time Koshavka Avdachal Cheirus. Why did you send one of your slaves to freedom? It says Rashi, just to go against the Jewish belief in which we could free slaves. So they said you're not allowed to free slaves. So why would you free the slave? So it's hadam. That's a false charge. I would never have done such a thing. So one person got up to testify against him that actually he did free a slave. Also, so Eliyahu Hanavi came and he had the appearance as one of the noblemen. So obviously, if all these other things are miracles, and he's going to get in trouble for this, so what was the purpose of all those other miracles? So therefore, he had to do a miracle here too. So when it comes to this person, to see this person's wickedness, v'lo ashkachbe kamo meimru haviksiva egarto is written the letter the haviksiv. It's written b'cheshivit malchus, but from the nobleman of the king, l'shturi lebe Caesar, to go to the Caesar. V'shurudu al yodeha dehu gavra, so he ended up sending him, and also leal paski arbamea parsi ozavu also. So he sent this guy 400 parsangs away so that he would never be around to ever come to testify against Rebbe Lezer ben Parta. Okay, ben Parta. So that's going to be the end of that. Let's see, do we have another question? Not for question there. Question TA29 we did. TB30. Alma nene shemachanina ben tradion umadir Rebbe Eliezer ben Parta nitzel v'hu loy. Right? So that is the question, which is on Yud Zayin Beis. And yeah, that should have been on this test. I don't know why I wrote that. So, okay, this is all wrong. This question I got completely wrong. So the answer is, as we saw, that when it came to Rebbe Eliezer ben Prata, Rebbe Eliezer ben Prata, he was saved because he was oisik in Gemilas Chasadim, right? So who oisik gam Gemilas Chasadim. So since he did Gemilas Chasadim, not just Torah, therefore that's the reason why he was saved. Ad kan.